Salamat, Chair. At kung ganon, yung trabaho namin, gumawa ng batas na kayo ang magpapatupad. So ang trabaho nyo naman ng COMELEC is to administer and enforce election laws, not at any time to create them out of thin air.
Tama po, Madam Chair. And yun po yung kadahilanan kung bakit yung pong mga kakulangan sa aming pong guidelines ay hindi namin basta pwedeng ilagay kahit pasabihin natin for specificity purposes sapagkat we cannot rise above the source. So dapat po muna merong batas na ipapatupad po ng Commission on Elections.
Opo. So ang isang lupon ng guidelines ng COMELEC ay hindi katumbas ng isang batas. Sabi nyo nga po, guidelines cannot rise above their source. Isang batas, lalo na kung wala pang source, kung wala pang sapat na batas na sabi nyo nga po, kami po sa lehislatura ang maglilikha noon.
Tama po kay Madam Chair. Yun po yung kadahilan na punot dulo ng suspension ng komisyon ng rules at lahat ng proceedings patungkol sa People's Initiative.
Salamat po. At sa mga ganong pananalita na punot dulo. Sa Lambino versus COMELEC naman po, the court reiterated this following statement. It is a fundamental principle that the Constitution can only be revised or amended in the manner prescribed by the instrument itself, and that any attempt to revise a Constitution in a manner other than the one provided in the instrument is almost invariably treated as extra-constitutional and revolutionary. Sang-ayon po ba kayo dito?
Ay, opo, Madam Chair. At in fact po, nung sa nasite niyo po na Lambino versus COMELEC at Santiago versus COMELEC, yung dalawang petitions po na yon, nagkaroon na po ng formal petition sa COMELEC. Sa kasalukuyan po talaga, Madam Chair, bago po kami nag-suspend, in all fairness to the Commission, wala pa pong kahit isang formal na petition na nakafile sa Commission election. Therefore po, kung sakali lang po dumating sana noon, bago kami nag-suspend yung formal na petition, tsaka po namin i-apply lahat. Yun na pag-usapan natin dito po sa pagdinig ng komite ng Senado po.
At kung nangyari po yun, Chair, na may formal petition na nakarating sa inyo bago nyo sinuspinde yung application ng rules o guidelines, still, would you agree, and today, before this committee, would you agree that public officers and government instrumentalities should exercise only those powers and functions granted them by law?
Madam Chair, Your Honors, although I do not want to bind the members of the other members of the Commission, but as far as this representation is concerned, when the COMELEC determines sufficiency and form and substance, then the determination of sufficiency may come to the determination as to whether 6735 is the valid enabling law in accordance with Article 17, Section 2 of the Constitution.
Pero sabi niyo po, you don't want to bind the other members of the commission. Pero kayo po yung chair. So kayo po yung kumbaga pinaka-authoritative voice na papanggigan namin. Kung isa lang nga na miyembro ng COMELEC ang pwede namin itanong sa ganitong hearing, kayo po talaga bilang chair. And I hope I'm not sensing a bit of a stepping back dun sa mga nauna nyo ng very definitive at satisfactory statements. Yung sinabi nyong you may pass on the form and substance, kasasabi nyo nga po ay wala pong sufficient na batas from which guidelines, valid guidelines, may emanate from the COMELEC.
Tama po kayo, Madam Chair. At in fact, kinakailangang reviewin naming mabuti. Ano ba talaga yung eksaktong sinabi sa Santiago? Ano ba talaga ang dahilan sa Lambino? Bakit despite the Santiago and despite the Lambino, nag-promulgate pa rin ang komisyon at that time ng COMELEC Resolution 10650? So by finding the reason why, Madam Chair, and that will lead to the conclusion, we are now siding with the pronouncement that 6735 may indeed be an inadequate law. And therefore, our guidelines may likewise be inadequate and therefore even null and void, so to speak, simply because there is no IRR if there is no law, so to speak, Madam Chair.
There is no law. It's not just so to speak. Or there is no sufficient law. I'm glad to hear, Madam Chair, the Chair concurring with the decisions of the Supreme Court. I didn't know that there was anything higher than the Supreme Court, not even the COMELEC, sa ganitong mga usapin po. Kaya di ko rin maintindihan bakit kailangang aralin ulit yung Santiago when even Lambino did not revisit Santiago, or kung bakit kailangang i-revisit ang Lambino. Okay na po sana yung mga naunang sinabi ng good share na tama lang na sinuspinde yung application ng guidelines dahil nga po, as the chair also said herself at the beginning of this hearing, the continuation of this hearing, na nagsastand po ang Santiago, nagsastand po ang Lambino. As a last question at this point in time, Madam Chair, sa Chair, tama po ba, Mr. Chair, na imposible nang mag-conduct ng plebiscite ang COMELEC dahil gaya ng sinabi nyo nung nakaraang hearing, wala nang oras o panahon, walang budget at walang administrative capacity, lalo na't malapit na ang 2025 elections.
Tama po kayo, Madam Chair. Ang binanggit po namin, yung period lang na pwede sana ay October of this year. Pero dahil nga sa nakasuspend ang rules, nakasuspend ang proceedings, at nagkakaroon ng ganitong klaseng pagdinig, mukha pong yung mismo October lang na yon, which will be the filing of the certificates of candidacy para sa national and local elections, ay hindi na rin kakayanin. Lalo po namin hindi kakayanin ang November at saka December. At lalo pong hindi namin kakayanin ang buong year ng 2025 to conduct a plebiscite.
Ay, maraming salamat sa ating mahal na chairman ng COMELEC. Natuklasan na natin ang dahilan kung bakit nagmamadali. Ayun.
Yun na nga po, Madam Chair, natuklasan din. At kung sabi po ng good chair, hindi nila kakayanin ng isang plebiscito sa Oktubre, Nobyembre, Disyembre, taong 2025, lalong hindi kakayanin ng mas maaga na yun yata ang timeline sana ng ilang mga grupo na nagbabalak
Or
nitong
even
Peking
sooner.
PI.
Di po
Yes,
ba?
Madam Chair. Exactly. Or even sooner than October 2024. Maraming salamat, Chair Garcia.
Yes,
Maraming salamat po, Madam.
I
Madam
think
Chair?
we'd like to recognize at this point the DOH via Zoom, Mr. Richard Jimenez. So he's here to adequately provide us information on the alleged MAIP offerings. In addition, Senator JV has manifested his desire to posit questions to the COMELEC, and we now have the presence of Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, who will also pose some questions. Yes, Senator JV, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Siya na una, sorry.
Just like to ask anybody from PIRMA can answer. Anyway, you admitted that you really played a role in collating the signatures, no, for the PI. Just want to ask, when was your intended deadline for all the signatures to be in and to be submitted to the COMELEC? Kailan po yung intended deadline nyo for the submissions of all signatures?
Our schedule is the minute we get the 12% nationwide and plus the 3% minimum per congressional district, we were gonna file the petition with the COMELEC.
So there was no specific date, for example?
No
January?
specific date, but our estimate was from the date of launching, January 2, we were expecting to finish everything within 2 to 3 months, but that's just our estimate.
2 to 3 months. But I would like to ask you, Chair, sa COMELEC, probably Chairman can answer, when were yung submissions of the signatures, di ba nakakuha na po yung iba, yung 200 plus districts, when were the bulk of the signatures submitted? Kailan po na ipadala sa COMELEC?
Siguro po, Madam Chair, Your Honors, mga second week to third week of January.
Second to third week of January. Kasi meron ho akong narinig, I don't know if you can confirm, yung deadline daw was really January 14 for all the signatures of the forms from the different districts to be in already and to be submitted to the COMELEC. Siguro, Mr. Uñate or Attorney Avisado, Attorney Gana, can you confirm that January 14 was the targeted date for the submissions of the signatures?
Senator JB, you know, I already declared the past hearing. I have a slight hearing problem. So your question is,
Yung January 14 kasi.
were we going to file the petition last January 13?
January 14, parang yun yung narinig namin that was the intended deadline for all the districts to be able to collect all the signatures, January 14.
I don't think so, because as of rough estimate, as of last week, Friday of last week, I was informed that we have already reached 14%. So that's more than the 12% necessary. And
But the COMELEC chair already said ang karamihan ng submissions were done second week of January. Madam Chair, kasi ang tanong ko lang dito, why January 14 and how come there's a timeline, no? Parang lumalabas nga, may hinahabol talaga. And ang suspicion
Meron
ko,
talagang tinext na
Yes.
timeline mula pa nung December, bago pa
Yes.
magpasko.
and that's why January 14, kasi we were on break at that time. So, yun lang. We were on break, so we were all caught by surprise, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair? Madam Chair,
Fast
siguro
break.
Fast break ang title.
maybe just for submission, kasi for this type of initiative, kailangan may organizational chart, di ba? So maybe we can ask Mr. Oñate or Attorney Abad, ano ho ba yung organizational setup ninyo pagdating dito sa People's Initiative? Kasi for example, dito sa Caloocan, sa NCR, a certain proponent, Jose Isagani M. Gonzales, miyembro ho ba ng grupo nyo itong si Gonzales? Ito bang mga nag-submit na 211 sa COMELEC, bahagi ba sila ng organizational charts? Hindi ko alam kung proper pa na tawaging pirma because pirma does not exist. So, hindi ko alam kung anong bagong pangalan nyo. May ganun ho ba kayong organizational setup?
Senator Binay, actually, the operations guy of PIRMA was already also invited in this hearing. Unfortunately, he could not make it. His name is Attorney Red Tuazon, and I'm sure he will be able to answer all the questions of all the people or volunteers of PIRMA in the field. Mr. Oñate ho kasi hindi naman niya kilala yung mga tao sa field. But the operations group would be able to answer all your questions po.
Yes, I confirm Attorney Abisado's comment, given that we got a response from Attorney Red, stating that he would be back from his trip overseas on February 12, and perhaps then we'll have the opportunity to ask him directly.
Maybe, Madam Chair, he can submit or siguro sa opisina niya meron kayong blackboard na nakasulat, di ba? I mean, itong People's Initiative, hindi ito ganun kadali. Kailangan merong organization na nabuo para maging successful itong People's Initiative.
Yes, Your Honor, we will make sure that he will be ready with his presentation by the next hearing. Thank you.
Yes, Senator Bato has manifested his desire to ask the question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to ask the question to Chairman George Garcia. Chairman, during our last hearing in Davao City, galit na galit yung mga tao na nakapirma. Gustong-gusto lang bawiin yung pirma nila. And I told the regional director that you said during our previous hearing that hindi mo alam kung anong gagawin para pagbawi ng pirma dahil, as you said, there's no rules covering that withdrawal of signatures. Wala kayong COMELEC resolution, the most, wala talaga kayo enabling law na pagbabasihan sa lahat ng gagawin ninyo. So, sabi nung mga tao doon, yung barangay captain, sabi, sir, hindi naman pwedeng pabayaan yan. Sir, dahil that signature of ours, for us, is sacred. Sagrado yan sa amin, sir. Ngayon na na-realize namin, sir, na kami ay nailad. Alam mo ibig sabihin ng nailad? Naloko. Ay, gusto namin bawiin yun, sir. Hindi po pwede yun. Bubawiin talaga namin. Tinanong ko yung regional director. Regional director, kung gusto nilang bawiin, mabawi ba nila yung kanilang signature? Sabi ng si regional director Tambuang, Sir, in the absence of any rules, policies, I don't know how to do that. Sabi niya, maybe sir, yung nag-submit sa amin na abogado, nakilala man yun, Madam Chairman, di ba? Sino yung abogado na nag-submit, baka pwede pa namin at the very least, may balik sa kanila kung gusto lang bawiin. Attorney Alex Cunanan. So, I told the barangay captain at saka yung mga tao, nandun, kilalaman nyo yung abogado na yun. Puntahan nyo. Sabi ng mga tao, sir, pressure namin yung abogado na yan. Hanapin namin yan para makuha. Now, the next question is, halimbawa, yung mga election officers doon, no, na bigay ng certification, na nag-receive sa mga signatures, maawa sila sa mga tao. Kasi kababayan nila eh. Alam nila, ayaw nila yung kababayan lang na maisahan, ayaw nila yung kababayan lang na maluko. Sabi ng election commissioners, masakit din sa kalooban namin, sir, na yung kababayan namin naloko sa perma. Kaya baka bibigay sila, ibigay na balik yung signature. Kung kukunin nila, sagrado yan. Kanila yan. Ngayon, kung bibigay yung mga election commissioner, ibigay nila, hindi naman kailangan ito. Balik namin yung pirma sa inyo. Wala, hindi naman kami kikita dito. Sa inyo niyan. Okay. Pag ibalik nila, are they, those election officers, liable criminally or at the very least administratively as far as your office is concerned? Kung gagawin nila yan?
Madam Chair, Your Honors, in the absence of the rules, in the meantime, wala naman pong criminal liability. Baka lang po administrative kasi po accountability namin, parang isang nagpa-receive ng sulat. Remember po, Madam Chair, with all due respect, under 6713 po, pagka nga po nagpa-receive ng sulat sa isang ahensya ng pamahalaan, dapat po ay masagot in 15 days. Parang ganun din po. Ngayon po, para po masolve na lang yung problema, na katulad po at napakaganda po yung nabanggit ng ating kagalang-galang Senator Bato de la Rosa, the COMELEC will be issuing the directive to our local COMELEC on what to do with these documents or with these signatures just in case our people who signed the signatures would like to withdraw the signatures from the signature sheets. In the meantime, parang stopgap measure po muna hanggat wala talaga yung review namin. Para lang po sa puso at isip ng mga kababayan natin, at least po, kung sa palagay po nila sila ay naloko, nalinlang, pwede po nila ma-withdraw yung kanilang signature doon po sa nasa amin.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Because ang tingin kasi ng taong bayan, yung mga tao na naloko sa perma, sabi nila, ang dali-dali magpakuha ng perma sa amin with that promise. Tapos ngayon, ang hirap palang i-withdraw. Nung na-realize namin na naloko kami, gusto namin i-withdraw, ang hirap pala. So, paano bang sabi ng ordinaryong tao na sinabihan lang na bibigyan kayo ng AX, ito yung coupon. Nakita mo yung hearing namin? Bin-issue sila ng mga coupon na para pang-claim nila in the near future, pag-release na yung, ano kaya release yun? AKAP ba yun? O AKAP, AX, o whatever. Ako, bago lang yung AKAP sa akin, very foreign to me, ha? Para bang tingin ko is designed for PI yung AKAP na yan, eh. Hindi ko lang talaga alam, pero bago sa akin pandinig yan. Ngayon, sabihin kasi na ordinaryong tao, ano ba itong gobyerno na ito? Porque ordinaryong tao lang kami, pahirapan kami, karapatan na nga namin yan ang nababayulit. Gusto nga na karapatan namin yung bawiin yung aming perma. Hindi pa ibibalik sa amin. So that's very, very injustice on the part of the ordinaryong tao. So it is incumbent on your part as COMELEC, sana gawan ninyo ng action dahil yung mga tao doon sa Davao, kung parang sa manok pa, nagpapanikad na ba? Yung gano'n na, gusto na talagang sumugod sa election officer, COMELEC election officer's office para kunin yung kailang perma. So please, bilisan nyo yan para mabigyan nyo ng guidelines yung mga tao nyo doon sa baba. Dahil yung mga tao naman nyo sa baba, they are willing to do that kung may clearance sa'yo.
Yes, please, Madam Chair.
Wala naman sigurong nagkukontrol sa'yo, no? Wala naman sigurong pipigil sa'yo na gawin yan.
Yes, Madam Chair, Your Honors. Gagawin po namin. And again, sa mga nanonood po sa kasalukuyan, gusto lang po namin i-guarantee. Lahat po ng mga signature sheets na yan, kasama yung mga signatures, at this point ay walang kwenta. Mere scrap of papers. Kasi wala pa naman pong bisa o kadahilanan kung bakit at paano nila gagamitin yung
Sa'yo, walang kwenta. Pero sa nag-initiate na malaki na ang ginastos, malaki na ang kapital ang na nasunog, ay sabi mo nga, there's no deadline, ano yan, ano? Expiry. There's no expiration date. So pag nakalimutan na yung issue about PI, pwede ka na namang gabangin ng mga nag-initiate yan. Tuloy natin yan dahil kompleto na. We have already, sobra-sobra nga ang na-claim nakuha nila eh. Yung ibang distrito, hindi lang 3%. Yung iba, 20% ang nakuha nila. So talagang malaki na investment nila dyan. Pwede nilang i-revive yung effort na yan pagtatahimik na naman itong issue na ito. Kaya dapat maibalik sa kanila yung perma na yan. Sagrado yan, Commissioner. Hindi ako bugado ha, pero ordinaryong tao lang ko. Pero para sa akin, pag ako'y pipirma, paninindigan ko yan. Pwede mo akong maikulong dyan kung pumirma ako at pwede akong mamatay dyan sa perma na yan. Di ba? Sa atin, sa ordinaryong tao. Kaya yung tao na yon, tulungan rin natin na ma-preserve yung kanilang dignity. They want to get back their dignity na hindi sila maloko sa ginaganon. O ito, merong card dito. Perma kayo, bigyan kayo ng card. Later on, that card can be claimed for cash ayuda from the government. Yun ang sabi sa kanila. So, please, Commissioner, gawin niyo po. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair,
Madam-
Your Honor.
Thank you, Madam
Maraming
Chair.
salamat po. We will do that immediately.
Madam Chair.
Yes, maraming salamat at gusto ko lang humirit. Nagulat din ako sa AKAP at mas lalo akong nagulat sa halaga. 26.7 billion. Isang programa na ngayon ko lang natuklasan at ngayon lang narinig, pero may bilin dito sa text, all soft projects including AKAP must go through the office of the Speaker. AKAP, AIX, TUPAD, MAIP for the PI and other efforts.
Madam
Yes,
Chair.
Senator JB,
Ako rin
please.
medyo naging curious sa AKAP, ngayon ko lang narinig eh. No? Siguro can ask the SWD, what is this program about? Is it just between the House and, kasi wala ho kami sa Senate na alam niyan eh. So is it with the SWD and the House of Representatives, yung program?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, ACAP is just as foreign to us, technically, as Senator Bato, as it is provided
Yes,
in
Yusek
line
Dimapuro,
item.
I understand that it's under the DSWD budget. If you recall, in the Senate, I handle the DSWD budget, but like the COMELEC's mysterious addition of 12 billion, this 26.7 billion in the budget of the DSWD is alien to me.
Yes.
Madam Chair, if this WD declares that is foreign to them, saan lang galing itong budget? Baligtad na pala ang budgeting process natin. Ang Kongreso na magde-decide kung anong project i-implement ninyo. Hindi pala kayo ang nagre-request sa Congress na project na papunduhan, program na papunduhan. Baligtad eh.
Madam Chair, it is not an exclusive project or program for Congress. It will be regular program, but it is technically foreign in the sense that it has no guidelines yet.
Yes, Yusek
So it does not
Dimapuro, did you
exist as
request
a
for this
program.
project? Was it in the NAP? It was not.
No.
There we go. Yes. Do we allot sums of money, enormous sums of money such as this, almost 27 billion, for a project or a program that is undefined, unnamed, unfamiliar, with no guidelines whatsoever, with no target beneficiaries, and is just left open? Is this the usual practice in the DSWD?
Not necessarily a usual practice
Not
in the
necessarily.
DSWD.
So sometimes DSWD has these magical projects that no one has ever heard of before.
We don't create magical projects, Madam Chair. These are
But
part
when
of
is
the
it
GAA.
necessary? You said not necessarily. So there are times when it is necessary to invent projects?
There are times when there are necessary projects to
Yes, you have QRF and you have all kinds of emergency
Yes.
assistance. I'm very familiar. Why do you have to invent ACAP?
ACAP is not invented. I
But you
believe
just said that guidelines and the purposes had not been established.
Yes, guidelines have to go through proper policy procedures. So
Pero
it's not
linagyan na ng
invented out
pera,
of the
walang
air.
nakakaintindi kung paano gagawin, kung kanino ibibigay. Walang kaplano-plano pero may pera na.
Madam Chair, there are programs that are provided by the GAA for NGAs to implement. But before we do
Yes, with all
implement,
due
we have
respect,
to.
USEC, that is not the usual budget process we're familiar with. There's always a very well-defined project or program before a line item magically appears in the GAA. It's fought over, debated, and discussed very, very thoroughly in the subcommittees as well as the plenary. This wasn't.
Madam Chair, we are currently creating the guidelines, and we would be happy to share with.
Parang baliktad naman yata yung buhay natin. Ngayon mag-iimbento ng dahilan, magdi-design ng project, pupunteriya yung mga beneficiary. Pero in the meantime, linagyan muna ng bilyon-bilyon. Yan na ba talaga ang patakaran ng DSWD?
Madam Chair, for programs that are intended for the poor, vulnerable, and disadvantaged, we welcome, obviously, more programs, and we would be grateful to be able to implement these other programs.
Yeah, I'm familiar with your mandate, but nothing in your mandate indicates that you should be inventing projects and that you are exempt from usual budgetary study and procedure. I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, kaya siguro nagkaganon dahil hindi talaga sa kanila yung programa na yan.
Gagawa lang sila ngayon.
Oh, hindi talaga sa kanila. With due respect naman, in fairness to Yusek Di Maporo, bago nga yan sa kanya. Sabi nga niya, foreign eh. Hindi niya alam. So, huwag ka mag-alala. We are not faulting you for that. Kaya we are just investigating dahil the usual mangyari is meron ng bahay yung pondo, like AX. Kung sisingit man yung meron mang intervention dyan during the BICAM, ang lower house at saka upper house, the most that they can do is siguro dagdagan yung amount ng AX na yan. Pero may bahay na yan. Pero yung gagawa ng bagong bahay dyan during the BICAM, I don't know how feasible is that. Kaya nga sabi ng aming chairman, it's very magical. Kayo mismo, DSWD, hindi nyo alam na, uy, boom! May
teka.
aka pala na ganito kalaki.
Bato may nabasa lang ako bigla, o naalala ko lang bigla. Sabi ni Yusek Di Maporo, hindi kita inaaway wag mo ipagtanggol yung AKA pag hindi mo alam. Kasi lahat kami hindi alam. Kahit sinasabi ng DSWD, wala silang alam tungkol sa guidelines, foreign itong project, at linagay lang dyan, nasa press release na yung AKAP will provide 5,000 cash payment to 12 million poor households. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I've read those press releases,
But isn't
Madam
this a mere
Chair.
duplication of so many programs already initiated by previous administrations, the 4Ps and then the AIX, the never-ending ayuda, SAP 1, SAP 2, walang katapusan to. So this is hardly a guideline. Pero ang liwanag na, nangako na ng 5,000 sa
Madam Chair,
12 million households. Baka hindi mo alam.
Madam Chair, I cannot confirm whether those are the numbers that are decided on, as we don't have any guidelines yet.
Pamaskong handog to lumabas sa PNA December 27.
Well, for our Christmas programs, or we don't have AKAP in or any of our Christmas programs, I can say that definitively. But with regard to any pronouncements of how AKAP will be implemented and what amounts will be provided through AKAP, we don't have guidelines for that yet, Madam
Sige,
Chair.
Yusek, ganito na lang, magtulungan na lang tayo. Alamin natin ang mga detalye nitong programang to, pareho kami ni Senator Bato, ni Senator JV, Senator Risa, nagugulat po kami kung saan to galing at ano ibig sabihin.
Yes po, Madam Chair. And I'd also like to say that we are very open to many innovations and new programs in DSWD. And it is not a new thing where we create something new.
Madam Chair, just to add.
Okay lang yan, okay lang.
I'm not gonna fight with you over that, but that's completely inaccurate and untrue. Okay, Senator Bato, please.
Pagkuha ko lang kay Yusek na walang problema. Wala kang problema dito sa amin. Wala, huwag ka mag-alala. Ang
Huwag ka
amin lang talaga
mag-alala.
is, nagulat lang kami sa Senado. O, akap. O, hindi namin nakita yan sa, kahit na ilang araw mo pag-aralan yung NEP, kahit ilang araw mo pag-aralan yung GAB, hanggang sa kwan, hindi mo talaga makita yan. Nagulat na lang kami ngayon na may ganyan pala. Ikaw nga, nagulat ka eh. Sa inyong departamento yan. Okay lang, pareho tayong nagulat ngayon.
A happy
Huwag ka
surprise,
mag-alala.
Senator
Ha?
Bato, Madam Chair. A happy surprise because it will help the disadvantaged
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Hindi, walang problema yan.
Hindi, okay lang yan.
Kung mapunta sa taong bayan yan, importante yan. Okay ako, walang problema. Yung nga lang, siguruhin ninyo ha, dahil ang PNP ngayon, nagbabantay na pag mag-release kayo, na babawasan na naman yung pera, ang 10,000, ibigay sa tao, tapos ibalik yung, bawiin yung 9,000, 1,000 lang maiwan doon sa tao. You hear that during our hearings, di ba?
Yes, Madam
Oh,
Chair,
kaya
we
bantayan
are
ninyo
happy
talaga
for the
yan.
support of PNP to help
Yeah.
us in those payment areas.
Oh,
Off-site payment areas po siya.
thank you.
Madam Chair, dagdagan ko na
Madam
lang. Dagdagan ko na lang yung,
Senator JV,
yung
hindi kita
pagka-surprise
inaaway,
natin.
mahal ko yung pamilya mo. Ang
course.
problema, wag mo ipagtatanggol yung hindi mo kaya ipagtanggol. Ayan, Senator
Madam Chair,
JV,
dagdagan ko na
please.
lang siguro yung surprise na ito. According to Infos, our appropriations chair of House, Saldico, said that 60 billion for the ACA program under the 2024 budget with 26.7 already lodged under DSWD. So 60 billion pa lang allocated dyan. So 26 billion pa lang nasa DSWD.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Risa, was that Attorney Diokno raising his hand? Parang nauna po kayo. Sige po.
Sen. Risa,
Dagdag
may
lang,
go
oo.
ahead.
Just a quick addition dun sa point made by Sen. JV, Madam Chair, before Attorney Chell. Just to follow that, at mukhang unprogrammed funds yon yung in-announce po nila sa press conference na yon. Just for the record, Madam Chair. Salamat po, Madam Chair. Salamat, Attorney
Pero ang
Chell.
bongga ng unprogrammed, nakadetalya na, 5 million per family. Ayos. Okay, Attorney Diokno, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the most basic principle here is that a people's initiative must come from the people. And it's very relevant that we find out, for example, why was there a need for an advertisement in the first place? The advertisement is obviously intended to shape public opinion, pero kung galing naman sa taong bayan yung initiative, ba't pa kailangan gumastos ng 55 million pesos? Doon naman po sa point ng donors, very relevant yan. Dahil kailangan natin malaman, halimbawa, kung galing ba yan sa mga public officials o mga associated sa public officials. I overheard Mr. Oñate say earlier that he has been a political operator for 30 years. So naturally, the question must be answered, where did that money come from because of his past experience? Last point lang po, Madam Chair, is that if, as the COMELEC Chair says, the signature sheets are mere scraps of paper, then I see no administrative liability to their being returned to the signatories. Thank you, ma'am.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Risa, please.
Related dun sa second point ni Attorney Chell, maybe we should also invite the Anti-Money Laundering Council to the next hearing. Kasi mukhang milyong-milyong piso ang dali-daling palitan ng kamay dito. Ayaw pang pangalanan sino yung mga original na fellow donors ni Mr. Oñate. Tapos walang government agency na may alam, pati BIR na dapat mangongolekta, baka hindi lang ng isa, kundi dalawang donors tax, ay hindi po alam yung impormasyong iyon. So perhaps, Madam Chair, pwede pong imbitahin yung AMLAC to the next hearing. Salamat, Madam Chair.
Yes, we will consider that, and perhaps DBM as well, because this very mysterious insertion of a very large sum of money needs to be probed further. Just as a matter of housekeeping, if you will allow, I know it's lunchtime, please carry on and eat the lunch prepared. We will have a working lunch hour. May I just following up on Senator Risa's request, urge that the committee secretary issue a second subpoena for the documents requested from Mr. Oñate, Gana, Abisado, etc., with regard to the TV ad, which I agree with Attorney Jokno should be entirely unnecessary if the initiative that was forwarded was indeed derived from the people. Also, I'd just like a quick clarification from Mr. Oñate. Mabilis lang po to. We were referred earlier for the organizational chart by Attorney Alex Avisado to a certain Attorney Red Tuason, since he is the one in charge of operations and organization. Tama po ba yon?
Yes, that's correct, Madam Chair.
So, what position does he have in PIRMA?
They know the list of regional coordinators and provincial coordinators of PIRMA. They are the ones that are in charge of the soldiers in the field.
So, you work closely with Mr. Red Tuason and perhaps hired him in the past? Is that correct?
Yes, we talk every now and then.
I'm very confused, Mr. Oñate. During the last hearing in January 30, when I read out his name, you said very clearly that you did not know Attorney Red Tuason. Now, he is not only your employee, but a close collaborator and organizer of PIRMA. Can you please confirm or
Yes,
deny?
because at that time we were in the process of getting people to help us in the field.
You are
Like,
saying...
we now
Attorney-
have a spokesperson, we now have,
So Attorney Red Tuason was hired when? You did not know him in January 30, is that correct?
yeah, that's correct. I got to know him,
And he
Two
has
wee- two
become
weeks
your
ago,
close
about-
collaborator since then?
pardon me?
But since January 30, when you denied any knowledge or familiarity with Attorney Red Tuason, since then, you have become a close associate and organizer of this Attorney Tuason?
Yes,
Yeah.
we text each other now. Because
So,
we
kakilala mo pa lang ngayon?
are beefing up our ranks.
Nalilito po ako kasi humihingi si Senator Binay kanina ng organizational chart, which I assume wasn't made over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, we have
Madam Chair, if I may, Attorney Red Tuason is closely working with the group of Attorney Alfredo Garbin. That's the connection, Your Honor. Unfortunately, Attorney Garbin
Yes,
is not
but
around.
does Mr. Oñate know Attorney Tuason or he doesn't know Attorney Tuason? That's all I need to understand. I mean, January 30, he never heard of him, and today he's a close associate.
Yeah, he was introduced to me about a week and a half ago.
And you organized PIRMA nationwide to undertake an entire people's initiative in the past week and a half. Is that correct?
Yes.
Past week, ano
We
yan?
are all
Madam Chair,
dumbfounded.
samantalang tumatakbo na itong People's Initiative, Disyembre pa lang, nag-break na tayo. Break tayo, tapos ibig sabihin, nauna mo nang tumakbo bago nabuo yung magpapatakbo. Ha? Nauna yung carriage, yung ano yun, yung karwahe, nahuli yung kabayo. Parang gano'n ang nangyayari dito. Madam Chair.
Nakakalito nga eh. In any case, I understand Attorney Macalintal wishes to be excused. Thank you very much for your valuable
Yes,
contribution.
Your Honor. But
I
in
also
addition to the position paper that I submitted.
Thank you very much.
I'll
I
just
think
give this
we're
additional
already in
position
receipt.
paper,
Maraming
Your Honor.
salamat po.
Maraming
Yes,
May
thank
hearing
you.
lang po ako sa Pasig ng 2
Ay,
o'clock.
maraming salamat. Thank you po.
Salamat. And
At
good afternoon.
sa ating COMELEC, alam ko rin na may hearing rin kayo sa House, kaya pag kinailangan, mag-abiso na lang po kayo. But
Madam Chair.
At this point, I really need to proceed to what is actually the first item in the agenda, and that is Attorney Abad.
Madam
Yes,
Chair, bago lang mawala ang chair at commissioners ng COMELEC, just for the record po,
Ay, hindi pa sila mawawala.
Okay
I think
po, Madam
mamaya
Chair.
pa ng konti.
or if I, at least to follow up kung may feedback na po kina Commissioner Casquejo at Inting about responding to the first question. Bakit nagbago ang memory at posisyon ng COMELEC tungkol dun sa interpretation ng Santiago at saka yung pag-issue nila ng 10650, Madam Chair?
Madam Chair, in the meantime, wala pa po. But with the kind indulgence of the Honorable Senator Risa Hontiveros, kung okay lang po, we'll just require these two commissioners to submit in writing the explanation on why there was a sudden turnaround as far as COMELEC Resolution 10650 is concerned.
Maraming salamat,
Immediately po.
Chair Garcia. Salamat, Madam
Thank you
Chair.
very much, Madam Chair.
At Senator Risa, are you satisfied with that? So we will await their response. Sige. Maraming salamat, Chair Garcia. At ngayon, nais ko lang alamin, andito si Attorney Abad. Okay. At tumataginting po yung pangalan ninyo dito sa form na pinagmudmod sa buong bansa. Andito, we hereby authorize Attorney Anthony A. Abad et al. To cause the filing of the petition, perform all acts necessary in furtherance thereof. Are you the same Attorney Abad whose name appears on these signature sheets for the People's Initiative?
Yes, that's correct, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Madam Senator Marcos, Senator De La Rosa, Senator Go, and of course Senator Risa Ontiveros. Before anything else, I would like to apologize for my absence in the last hearing, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to clarify and speak this morning.
Yes, matagal kang inantay pero at least nag-email ka naman. Kaya marami po kaming katanungan para sa iyo. Unang-una, sabi ni Mr. Oñate nung nakaraan, na bahagi ka ng pirma. Are you part of the PIRMA organization? Neither does your name appear in the SEC documents or any other papers that we have retrieved with regard to PIRMA. Do you confirm that you are part of PIRMA?
Actually, Madam Chair, I am not a member of PIRMA, but I am assisting as an advisor the groups that are signing this petition.
So you're disputing Mr. Oñate's claim in January 30 that you are part of PIRMA?
I'm really not part of PIRMA, not organizationally or a member of it. My role is really as an advisor on constitutional reform if this petition ever prospers.
When did you become part of this operation, if not PIRMA?
Okay, my background, no, I am a professor of international economic law at Ateneo, recently retired from the practice of law, and I had been a long-time advocate of constitutional reform. So I have been promoting constitutional reform and advocating it since the period of President Fidel Ramos. That's why I had occasion to work with Carmen, with Tita Chit Pedrosa,
And the rest of the PIRMA incorporators.
yes, but
is
I've
that
never
correct?
joined them organically. But I have supported and I've always promoted constitutional reform.
Or perhaps is PIRMA your client? Are you engaged as a lawyer of PIRMA?
No, I'm not. I'm actually doing this on a voluntary basis. Madam Chair,
I'm just very curious, given your very nebulous and inchoate relation with PIRMA, why is it that yours is a single name that occurs in all these sheets?
well, what happened, Madam Chair,
Yes, please proceed.
okay. What happened, Madam Chair, is, I've been a long time resource person for both houses. No? Here in the Senate, even with as recent as Senator Padilla's hearings, I appeared as well to promote constitutional reform. In the House, I worked closely with Congressman Rufus Rodriguez. Late last year, Congressman Rufus Rodriguez asked me and invited me to assist and to help PIRMA and anyone else who is joining this People's Initiative for constitutional reform as an advisor. But I was supposed
Pero
to join.
Attorney Abad, sa dinami-dami ng mga pangalan na binanggit mo, at napakarami naman nila, nandyan yung Ghana Law Office, nandyan si Attorney Abisado, nariyan si Noel Oñate, di ba? Nandyan po kayo. Bakit yung pangalan mo ang pinili nila?
Ma'am, I think this is
Ikaw pa yung sinasabi mo, walang koneksyon. Hindi
This
ka
is-
naman bahagi ng pirma. Ba't ka bida dito? Ikaw ang starring dito sa
I know,
aming
ma'am.
papel eh.
I've unexpectedly infamous for this, but Madam Chair, it's actually a curse of the alphabetical, my name being triple A. There are other petitioners.
Yes, could you name or mention some of the et al. That
Okay.
occur after your name? Sino-sino yung et al. That you say alphabetically succeed
Yes.
your triple A initials?
Well, alphabetically, you'd have former Congressman Argel Kabatbat of Magsasaka.
Mga kongresista yan. They're all congressmen.
Well, former congressman. There's, of course, former Congressman Garbin,
Okay.
Ed Gulye of CORE, Constitutional Reform Movement. This was
Okay.
a recent organization or last 20,
Sila yung
early
et
20.
al.
Ito yung mga et al. And of course, Sir Noel Oñate and former Justice Veloso, Ching Veloso. I understand there will be more, but these are the names that I am familiar with.
Pero, as an accident of your name, you're saying you are the single name mentioned in full?
Yes, it happened that the signature form came out with only one name, which is mine, and just an et al.
Yes, it's just problematic to me because I actually have the transcript of Mr. Oñate's testimony during the last hearing, during which he said, si Anthony Abad ay kasama namin sa professional sector ng pirma. Ang pirma ay maraming components. Merong farmer, professional, etc. Si Anthony Abad ay isa sa mga volunteers sa aming professional sector. Tama po ba yun?
Perhaps Mr. Oñate can explain. I'm not organic or a full-time member of
Okay.
PIRMA, but I am assisting as a lawyer and as an economist.
So you know Attorney Garbin, the former congressman?
Yes.
And you're also familiar with Attorney Garbin's participation in PIRMA. Kasama kayo sa PIRMA.
Yes.
And together with other former congressmen and justices, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, ma'am.
So you share the advocacy of PIRMA in pushing for the joint voting by the House and the Senate in the event of a constituent assembly?
Yes, that's correct.
Joint voting and not separate voting?
No, because I look at constituent assembly as a single body.
Right.
it-
But
Madam Chair.
you will note that your name is also attached, voting jointly at the call of the Senate President or the Speaker, hence in violation of the bicameral nature of our government. Is that something you abide by?
My opinion, Madam Chair, is that when the heads of the houses call for the constituent assembly and
It's an
created...
or, sir. We all went to law school and the ends and ors were very important. It's an or. A single house can actually call
Yes.
for this con-ass.
Madam Chair.
I stand corrected, ma'am.
Yes, Senator
I
Risa.
apologize, Madam Chair, but just to check, I think Attorney Abad has not been placed under oath yet. Thank you,
That's
Madam
correct.
Chair.
I've failed to ask the committee secretary to, yes, can we please require them to take the oath? Yes, Attorney Abad, please take the oath. I forgot. Sorry, and that will be for everyone that we've called upon. Sorry.
To those who were not able to take an oath during the previous hearings, kindly stand. For the rest who have taken an oath, this is a continuing hearing, so your oath still stands. So those who are new to this hearing, kindly stand and raise your right hand. Okay. Kindly repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth in this proceeding. Thank you very much. You may sit down.
Yes, thank you very much. Let's proceed. I am still perplexed, Attorney Abad, because you have here very clearly your name in bold letters, indicating that you share the advocacy of a unicameral voting for the Constitutional Assembly. Was this something that you were aware of?
Yes, ma'am. It's well, from an academic point of view, I know that the 1987 Constitution does have certain vagueness, and we were looking at.
I think it's quite specific with regard to voting. There's no vagueness at all.
Well, we were looking at this people's initiative as an opportunity to clarify this matter.
Okay, so that it was your stand that the Constitution should be changed into a unicameral body, a National Assembly, as originally debated long ago.
No, ma'am.
But this is
no, but-
the paper
No,
on which your name is affixed.
Yes, ma'am. But no, it's not about. It's the Constituent Assembly is unicameral. The Congress or the Parliament or the legislature can be bicameral or can
With
be
all due
unicameral.
respect, you put your name to an amendment that states 3/4 vote of all its members voting jointly, okay, and secondly, at the call of the Senate President or the Speaker. So on 2 counts, it's clearly unicameral. Is that your stand? I'm not going to fault you for it. I just want to make sure that we understand what we're talking about.
My stand, ma'am, is that the Constituent Assembly is unicameral, not the Congress. I'm not advocating a unicameral Congress or Assembly.
But in the case of a change of the Constitution, a single House can call for the vote. Surely you're invoking the establishment of a unicameral assembly.
Yes, it's the same people.
Hindi naman kailangan yung Senado dito, di ba, maliwanag? Gusto ko lang iklaro kung ano talaga yung pakay ninyo rito kasi nalilito po kami. Kasi ngayon sinasabi mo, pang-con-as lang yan. Eh sa ligang batas yan, babaguhin mo. Yung ordinaryong batas, papalitan nga lang yung pangalan ng kalsada. Eh talagang BICAM kami ng BICAM. Eh para dito, para sa konstitusyon, kanya-kanyang kabig, okay na.
Madam Chair, what is of paramount importance to me is the constitutional reform. I can see and I understand now. I can see how divisive and how
Are you saying you
counterproductive.
allow them to put your name on this without full knowledge of what you were signing?
No, ma'am. I understood.
You understood?
Yes.
And you understood that, in fact, this was a way to evade, avoid, disenfranchise, abolish, in fact, the Senate.
No, ma'am. In fact, personally, I don't think that the Senate should be abolished. I think there should be an upper house.
Eh, ba't mo pinirman to? Nagtataka
No.
lang ako kasi yung mga abogadong kulit-kulit, hindi ba ang turo natin sa law school, talaga isa-isahin mo yan.
Ma'am,
Eh, nagtataka nga ngayon, eh, kaya pala ng speaker, mag-isa, magtatawag siya ng con-as.
with all due respect, ma'am,
Wala namang alam yung senador, wala rin yung Senate President. Pwede niyang patakbuhin. Tama po ba yun? Parang nalilito ako sa iyo eh.
No, ma'am. The Congress is bicameral. The Constituent Assembly, which gathers as a constitutional amendment body, is unicameral. It has a different legal
So you're saying that a
identity.
mere law to change a little road somewhere far away requires constant debate and discussion and finally consensus between the 2 houses, but a major change in the Constitution can be called by a single house. Wala, nalilito lang ako kasi ikaw ang nakapangalan dito eh, kaya kailangan panindigan mo.
But that's correct, Madam Chair. But you see, it's
What's correct po? Na
That-
pwedeng paltan yung saligang batas, kanya-kanyang kabig na kung gusto ng mga congressman, kung gusto ng senator, o di paltan nila kahit kailan.
no, it's the constitutional. Of course, a constitutional assembly, a constituent assembly, as acting as a constitutional amendment body, of course, has to be subject to scrutiny, and eventually it will require plebiscite or referendum, depending on what comes out of this constituent assembly. It is just that currently.
With all due respect, since you're a constitutional advocate, parang dapat i-clarify natin. In any case, let's put that aside. It's obvious that this form attached your name without full information on your part on the implications of this proposition. Would that be an accurate statement?
My work should have come in only when the petition, if the petition prospered. I was supposed to be an advisor.
So
on
hindi ninyo
constitution.
alam yung nakasulat dito?
Oh, no. I knew, ma'am. I knew what I
You
was.
knew?
Yes.
Yes, but right now you don't know. Sabi mo, hindi ka sigurado kung ganun talaga.
No.
Kasi gusto mo na ngayon bycam. Eh
No.
nakasaad dito, unicameral voting, unicameral call for a CONAS. Let's please make up our minds.
Ma'am, a constituent assembly, although they are the same people who are in the Congress, is actually a different legal body for the purpose
No,
of.
we fully understand that. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this form because it is your name that appears here. And I assume that you abide by all the statements that are contained in this sheet.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, kalarin natin for the record. Yung alam namin yan, we fully understand na a constituent assembly is a separate body. We will be wearing another hat pag mag-form tayo ng constituent assembly. Pero yung point ng chairman is that klaruhin mo yung stand mo about voting jointly or separately. Yan lang gusto namin. From your end, yung ba talagang gusto mo na voting jointly, na kaming 24 at silang 316, isang count lang ng boto namin?
That's correct, sir.
That's correct. So that's your, yan ang gusto mo. Kaya ikaw ang nag-spearhead dito na ma-amend itong section 1 ng Article 17 by People's Initiative. So ganun ang gusto mo talaga. This for the record.
For the record, I wouldn't say.
I think just to help things along, there were statements from PIRMA, I'm not certain if it was Mr. Oñate, that alleged similarly that since the Senate was a constant roadblock to constitutional change, they wanted to have the two houses vote jointly para malusaw nga yung boto ng Senado. Tama po ba yun? Yun ba yung tamang idea sa likuran nitong papel na to? Okay lang, kasi wala lang sa amin. Total, puro proposal naman to eh.
Well, it's not to dilute the Senate's role. It's just that to clarify how you vote within a constituent assembly. That's my understanding.
But it's not merely...
I-clarify mo, tapos i-amend mo na kagad ang konstitusyon. Yung palang
no.
clarification na gusto mo.
Oh, because it lacks clarity, we need to clarify.
No,
That's
but
why
I think it's very clear also, at the call of only one of the House leaders, there's nothing that says that it has to be bicameral. Okay din sa iyo yon na only one House. Yung Congress, kanya-kanyang palit. Congress will change the Constitution on its own. The Senate as well. Is that what you had in mind?
Could you repeat that, ma'am?
Well, ang liwanag dito, at the call of the Senate President
Yes.
or at the call of the Speaker of the House. So, kanya-kanyang tawag, kanya-kanyang palit ng saligang batas. Bahala na kung anong lumabas. Okay lang pag hindi nagkatugma-tugma yung dalawa.
Madam Chair, I'm not familiar with the work in how Congress works, but I would imagine that it would require still some consensus. that
You
would
have
be-
your name here. And you're not clear on what the language was?
No, ma'am, it's clear.
Just said it's unclear how Congress works.
No, I'm just saying that I would imagine that when you call, whether you're Senate President or the House Speaker, it would still require a building of consensus within these houses. No? Well, I don't know if...
We can go to that later. I
Yes.
think you've certainly not answered all the questions. You've definitely raised my level of confusion. In any case, let's go back to Pirma and revert to that. Do you know Attorney Garbin? Sabi mo kasali siya dun sa mga et al na sana lumabas din kasama mo.
Yes.
Okay, so you're part of Project P.I. That's correct, because you were helping them. You said you were in an advisory role.
Yes, that's correct.
So you also know Attorney Red Tuason?
No, I don't know Attorney Red Tuason.
I see. But Mr. Oñate said that he was the prime organizer.
Yes, I have now no involvement in the signature campaign, ma'am. So I don't know the people who are in the operations part.
You have no involvement, but you are the single name on the signature sheet.
That's correct, ma'am. As I explained, because of the alphabetical order of the petitioners, my name was put at the top of the list.
Mr. Oñate already admitted that he sought the help of Speaker Romualdez, whom he described as the CEO of the Congress. I think that is correct. Did you also meet with Speaker Romualdez?
I met him also.
Yes, was it to do with Project P.I.?
I just accompanied Mr. Oñate and Kong Rufus, and well, he just thanked me for participating.